We did not steal. We did not kill. But you want to treat me like a time bomb, like a time bomb, like a time bomb, like a time bomb.
So how far away at sea were you?
We were on it for 8 hours.
You were offshore for 8 hours?
Yes, away for 8 hours.
This is the human side of the story of smuggling and trafficking in persons. It seeks to capture the narrative from a forgotten people in an unrecognized country, Somaliland. You probably have heard of it by now, Somaliland, a self-declared republic in the Horn of Africa. Internationally unrecognized, the country seemingly functions better than some African states. It has held peaceful democratic transitions of power, maintains its own currency, and has largely been self-reliant without much support from the outside world. In recent years, countries such as the UAE, Turkey, and Russia have set their sights on the country's geostrategic location. Airports, seaports, roads, and other infrastructure have benefited from both foreign investments and development funds. Unfortunately, the country's 3.5 million population does not see any trickle-down economics. Somaliland suffers from underdevelopment, economic decline, poverty, social and gender inequality, and environmental degradation. Nearly 65% of the population is below the age of 25. A lack of educational and job opportunities and one of the world's highest youth unemployment rates is a major source of tension for the country's bulging youth cohort, making them vulnerable to human smuggling, tahrib, as it is referred to in Somali.
Like a time bomb, like a time bomb, like a time bomb, like a time bomb.
Surviving tahrib, or human smuggling, is no small feat. In addition to the perils of driving across the Sahara Desert, there are the dangers of coming face to face with violent extremist organizations, heavily armed militias, and perhaps most brutal, the threat of encountering human traffickers. In 2019, we had the opportunity to interview Bashir, a young man who is a recent returnee from Libya. Bashir is originally from Hargeisa, the capital and most thriving city of Somaliland. His reasons for leaving center on the lack of socioeconomic opportunities available to him and his family. In Somaliland, the decision to make the journey to Europe is often a family one. Both the immediate and extended family, inside and outside Somaliland, collect large sums of money in the hopes that their loved one successfully reaches their destination.
I was taken from Prashat and had to pay $10,000.
$10,000?
Yes, $6,000 and when...
You paid how much?
At first, I paid $6,250.
That was $6,250 for
Yes,
when you
when
left
we live in
Bora.
Bora.
And how about the money your mom sent?
I was then robbed again. They took me from a place in Kufra. And when I was brought to Prashat, that's where I paid $10,000.
Bashir next tells us the routes that the smugglers take out of Hargeisa into Ethiopia, across the Sahara, and into Libya.
Did you say you left from Hargeisa or Borome?
So I left from Burma to Jijiga. Then from Jijiga, they took us to Daradawa. Then from there, they took us from Daradawa to Nazareth. And then from Nazareth to Addis Ababa. And then from Addis Ababa, they took us to a border town.
Border of
Ethiopia and Sudan. I left from there, they then took us to Chad.
Oh, you went through Chad?
Yes, we were taken through Chad. After Chad, then they took us to Libya, starting at this little town called Kufra. And then they eventually took me to a place called Prashat.
So the smugglers are in control?
Yes, they're in full control.
He then recounts how he departed Sabratha on the northwest Libyan coast on a large fiberglass boat carrying hundreds of people bound for the South European coast.
I was then brought to Sabrata. And we took a boat from there and left to go to Europe. We were then captured. Then they caught us while we were on the boat for about 8 hours in the sea.
Is the boat the ones you see on the news? Those big ones that carry hundreds of people?
Yes, it's called fibreglass.
Fibreglass. How many people were on board?
We were about 600 or so.
600 or so.
Yes, about 615 people, I would say.
Okay.
After being captured, they brought us to jail.
Well, so how far away at sea were you?
Like I said, we were out for 8 hours.
You were offshore for 8 hours.
Yes, away for 8 hours. Then we were captured.
And you were captured by whom?
Oh, the Libyan police security.
The Coast Guard?
Yes. Then they brought us to this place called Misrata.
Misrata.
They brought us to Misrata, yes. After they brought us to Misrata, they locked us in Korean jail.
Okay, but wait, you had said that the Libyan security were Coast Guards, correct?
Yes, they were Coast Guards.
Did any people on the boat lose their lives?
On that boat, only a few who were sick or ill lost their lives, but no other deaths or concerns.
So the 600 that were captured were all brought to Misrata?
Yes, they were brought to Misrata.
Bashir next describes the harrowing conditions of the detention centers he was taken to in Misrata.
Cemented, armed, guarded, barbed, wired, iron, barricaded, ironic, damned ironic.
So there was another center in Misrata.
Misrata was where we were taken to a big hall.
A big hall?
Yes, full of people were captured. There were Nigerians, Somalis, Sudanese, Bangladeshi, many people, lots of foreigners.
And other Africans?
All Africans.
How many people do you estimate in that hall?
In the hall, maybe it could reach up to 6,000 or 7,000 people or persons.
Okay, and then where was next after leaving the hall?
After that, we were taken by cars. Then the UN and IOM came to us.
Where? They came to Misrata?
Yes, in Misrata. Then the UN brought us to Korean jail.
UN or IOM?
Both UNHCR and IOM. Then they brought us to Korean jail.
Is it a jail or a detention center?
It's a jail and it's also a detention center. I stayed there for a period of about 11 months.
How many people were at the detention center?
Most of my friends died while in the detention center.
Is that so? How come?
From the problems there, the beatings, hunger, the medical conditions, and everything else. And it was winter, and we were living in containers without blankets. And that's how people died.
They died from the cold.
Yes, they died from the cold.
And how many people were in each container?
Each container was about, I think it was meant for 60 people.
And how many people were actually there?
Well, initially, it was right, about 60 people. However, when more people turned up, it became 200 in each container.
Like a time bomb, like a time bomb, like a time bomb, like a time bomb.
Fortunately for Bashir, he manages to escape after the center was overtaken by human traffickers.
So the traffickers eventually came to the center.
To the Qarian center?
Yes, the center.
Traffickers from where?
These were Libyan human traffickers.
But who was protecting the place?
There was security there, but I'm not sure how this happened.
So Libyan human traffickers attacked the security guards.
Well, some of the security guys were tied up while others kind of ran away. So the traffickers took us. They had large weapons and they took us by force at gunpoint. And then they took us to this place, someplace.
Someplace you don't know?
Yeah, I don't know which city they took us. They said each person should pay $33,000. After we were there for about 5 days, about a dozen of us tried to escape from the center through an opening on the ceiling.
You escaped?
Yes, we escaped. About 14 of us tried. Well, when it was nightfall and people were sleeping, we tried to push one skinny guy through the opening near the ceiling. Then I was the next person. Then people woke up and started making a lot of noise, but we just kept running. So only 5 of us managed to escape from the traffickers, and the rest were caught.
Only 5 escaped.
Yes.
And you were one of them.
Yes.
My goodness, you've been through some trauma. God loves you.
Yes, he does.
Eventually, Bashir and his lone companion are found by a Libyan farmer after their narrow escape from human traffickers in the middle of the night.
So how'd you get back here? After your escape, where did you go?
So we were walking in an area called Fok Ahmar. As we were walking, we got stopped by this Libyan man.
Libyan security forces?
No, not security.
Traffickers?
No, he was just a normal person.
Okay, so there were 5 of you?
No, at this time, some of the people got lost, so it was just me and the other guy.
Okay.
So as we're walking in Fok Ahmar, this old shepherd stopped us in the area that's very rural.
Okay.
It took us to his home, where we spent the night. Then the next day, he brought us to the capital, where he took us to the jail in town.
I'm sorry, what?
Jail, yeah, he brought us to jail.
To jail? Did you know he was taking you there?
No, we had no idea. All we knew is that we were going to the capital. So I'm assuming he was just scared and he must thought maybe he will get in trouble.
Okay, which capital?
Tripoli. So when he took us to jail, and they locked us up. And I was in jail for 15 days.
Do you recall the dates?
May 18th or May 22nd.
What year?
2018.
On his final and unexpected return travel back to Somaliland, Bashir seems elated that the Somali ambassador was able to secure his exit from Libya.
Okay, so you were locked up for 15 days, and then?
Yes. Then the ambassador of Somalia came to the jail.
He came to see you.
Yes. Ali Fiki, the Somali ambassador to Libya. Then gave us some medical checkup. They tested us, and I was negative for any disease. Then they took me home. So within 7 days, I was taken out of the place.
Where were you then taken, Mogadishu?
Yes, to Mogadishu.
On a plane.
Yes, by plane.
Then another flight to Hargeisa.
No, to Garowe, and then from Garowe to Hargeisa.
We did not steal, we did not kill.
Migration has been taking place as long as the human race has existed. We will not see an abatement in our lifetime, and possibly not ever. Conflicts and climate change are 2 of the major drivers fueling human smugglers and their thriving businesses. Unfortunately, the consequential product of smuggling will be human traffickers seeking to profit and capitalize off the seemingly unending human suffering. One good start to curb the global organized human smuggling and trafficking crime networks is to seek out the stories of migrants, especially those from hard-to-reach communities such as Somaliland and other East African states. The region is a major contributor of illegal migration into Europe. Another would be to carry out empirical studies and research that are needed to help answer how best to assist migrants already en route and those seeking to return to their countries of origin.
Need a paper to prove you here, paper to prove you there, paper to prove you educated, paper to prove you working, paper to prove you worth it. You need a paper to prove you loving, paper to prove you leaving. You need a paper to prove you living, and a paper to prove you dead.